Nicole's temporary apartment smelled like cheap detergent and someone else's life. She'd found it on a Wednesday, a furnished studio in Itaewon that asked no questions and required no lease. Just cash up front and a fake smile from a landlord who'd seen this story before. Woman fleeing something. Woman with haunted eyes and 2 suitcases containing a life that no longer fit. The first night, she sat on the floor because the bed felt too permanent. Too much like admitting this was real. That she'd actually done this. Destroyed everything for a kiss and a maybe and a love that should have stayed buried. Her phone buzzed constantly those first few days. Her assistant. Clients. Her mother. Her mother. Nicole stared at the screen as her mom's face smiled up at her. A photo from 2 Christmases ago, when life made sense. When she'd been engaged to a good man and the future had looked clean and certain. She let it ring through to voicemail. Then listened to the message with her forehead pressed against the wall. Eyes closed. Baby, I've been trying to reach you for 3 days. I'm getting worried. Call me back, please? I wanted to talk about the wedding flowers. I found this beautiful arrangement in a magazine and... Her mother's voice, so hopeful, so excited, cut off as the message ended. Nicole slid down the wall until she was sitting, knees pulled to her chest. She had to tell her, had to explain that there would be no wedding, no flowers, no future mother-in-law who fussed over her like she was precious, no stability, no safety net, just the wreckage of her own choices. She called back at midnight Seoul time, which made it noon in the States. Her mother answered on the first ring. Nicole, finally. I was about to call the... Mom. The word came out cracked. Mom. I need to tell you something. The silence that followed was the sound of a mother's intuition kicking in. What happened? Sharp now. Protective. Did something happen? Are you hurt? The wedding's off. Another silence. Longer. Heavier. What do you mean off? I mean... Nicole's voice broke. I mean I gave back the ring. I mean Tae-Won and I are over. I mean I ruined everything. Baby, slow down. What happened? Did he do something? Did he hurt you? Because I will get on a plane right now and... No. Nicole laughed bitterly. No, Mom. He didn't do anything. He was perfect. He loved me. And I... The sob caught in her throat. I broke his heart. I'm the villain in this story. The whole sordid truth came spilling out. Tae-Kyung. College. The separation. The reunion. The kiss. The discovery. Her mother listened in silence until Nicole's voice gave out and there was nothing left but quiet crying. Oh, baby, her mother finally said, and there was no judgment in her voice, just grief. What are you going to do? I don't know. Nicole wiped her face with her sleeve. I don't know anything anymore. Are you in love with him? This Tae-Kyung. The question hung in the air like smoke. I think I never stopped, Nicole whispered. But I don't know if that matters. I don't know if love is enough when you've hurt this many people to get it. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. It's going to be hard, baby. Whatever you choose. There's no easy way out of this. I know. But you need to figure out who you are when you're not running from the past or hiding in someone else's idea of your future. You need to figure out what Nicole wants. Not what makes sense. Not what's safe. What do you actually want? Nicole closed her eyes. I don't know if I'm allowed to want anything after what I've done. Everybody's allowed to want, baby. But wanting comes with consequences. Are you ready to live with them? That was the question, wasn't it? After they hung up, Nicole sat in the dark and inventoried her losses. Her engagement. Her relationship with Tae-Won's family. Grandmother, who'd loved her like her own. Friends who'd sided with Tae-Won, rightfully so. The clean narrative of her life she'd been building. And for what? A man she hadn't spoken to since the confrontation, who was probably dealing with his own fallout, his own destroyed relationships. They'd burned down their lives for each other. Now they were just 2 people sitting alone in the ashes, wondering if it had been worth it. Across the city, Tae-Kyung learned what ice felt like when it wore Yuna's face. She'd waited until he got home. Was sitting in the dark living room when he walked in, laptop open on the coffee table, a glass of wine in her hand. We need to talk. she said, her voice pleasant, conversational. That's when he knew. Yuna. Sit. Not a request. He sat. She turned the laptop toward him. On the screen, a photo from 7 years ago. Him and Nicole, young and stupid and in love, at some university event he barely remembered. Her bracelet catching the light. His arm around her waist like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. I'm going to ask you a question, Yuna said calmly, and I want you to know that I already know the answer. So don't insult me by lying. Tae-Kyung's mouth went dry. Is Tae-Won's fiancé your ex-girlfriend from college? The one who disappeared on you? The one you spent years being broken over? He couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at the photo and feel everything collapse. Your silence is answer enough. Yuna closed the laptop with a decisive click. Took a sip of her wine. How long have you known? Since the first dinner, he admitted hoarsely. At grandmother's. I didn't know before that. I swear I didn't know. And you didn't think to tell me? To end things with me before you went chasing after your cousin's fiancé? I wasn't chasing. Please. Her laugh was sharp. I've watched you for weeks. The distraction. The guilt. The way you look at her when you think no one's watching. You've been gone since the moment you saw her again. You just didn't have the decency to actually leave. Shame burned through him. Yuna, I never meant. To make me look like a fool? Too late. She stood, smoothing her dress. I don't share what's mine, Tae-Kyung. I told you that from the beginning. And I don't stay where I'm not wanted. You are wanted, but not chosen. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. There's a difference. I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their consolation prize while they pine for someone else. He had no defense. She was right. About all of it. For what it's worth, he said quietly. I did care about you. I do care about you. I know. She picked up her purse. But you love her. And I'm not interested in competing with a ghost. She paused at the door. I hope she's worth it. I hope destroying your family and your integrity was worth it. Because from where I'm standing, you both just traded one kind of misery for another. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Tae-Kyung sat in the dark apartment and felt the walls closing in. His phone rang. Grandmother. He let it ring. It rang again. And again. Finally, he answered. Why? His grandmother said, voice trembling with age and disappointment. Did Tae-Won just call me crying about you and Nicole? Tae-Kyung closed his eyes. Grandmother. Don't you dare try to explain this to me like I'm a child. Is it true? Did you betray your cousin? Did you pursue his fiancé? It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Her voice cracked. He was like a brother to you. He trusted you. He loved you. And you, she couldn't finish. He heard her crying on the other end. This woman who'd raised him, who'd loved both of them equally. I'm sorry, he whispered. Grandmother, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Tae-Kyung. Sorry doesn't give him back what you took. The line went dead. He sat there holding the phone long after the screen went dark, listening to the silence of his empty apartment and wondering how he'd become this person. This man who destroyed families and betrayed trust and justified it all in the name of love. If this was love, why did it feel like drowning? Tae-Won stopped crying after the third day. Not because the pain stopped. Didn't. It lived in his chest like a physical thing, heavy and hot and choking. But tears required energy he didn't have. So he just lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and felt hollow. His friends came by, tried to get him to eat, to shower, to leave the apartment. She's not worth this, one of them said, well-meaning but useless. She's just a woman. There are millions of women. You'll find someone better. But that wasn't the point. The point was that he'd given her everything, had trusted her with his whole heart, had built a future in his mind where they grew old together, raised children, built a life. And she'd been carrying someone else in her heart the entire time. The bracelet haunted him. He'd seen it every day for 3 years and never asked the right questions. Never pushed when she deflected. Never demanded the truth she clearly wasn't willing to give. Maybe he'd known on some level. Maybe he'd chosen not to see. That thought was almost worse than the betrayal itself. On the 5th day, he got out of bed, showered, shaved, went to his grandmother's house because she'd left 6 voicemails and he couldn't avoid her forever. She opened the door looking older than he'd ever seen her. Smaller somehow, like this had diminished her too. "Come in," she said quietly. They sat in her kitchen, the same kitchen where he'd brought Nicole to meet her for the first time, where she'd fussed over Nicole and called her granddaughter-in-law and made her feel like family. "I don't understand," grandmother said finally, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. "How could they do this to you? I don't think they meant to hurt me." The words tasted like ash, but he believed them. "I think they hurt each other years ago, and then found each other again, and everything just fell apart. That doesn't make it okay." "No," he agreed. "It doesn't. Are you going to forgive them?" Tae-Won looked at his grandmother and saw her hope, her desire for family to heal, for this rift to close, for everything to go back to how it was. "I don't know if I can," he admitted. "Not now, maybe not ever. He was my brother, and she was going to be my wife. And his voice broke. They chose each other over me. I don't know how to forgive that." Grandmother reached across the table and took his hand. Her skin was paper-thin and warm. "Then don't. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to be angry." "I'm so angry," he whispered. "I'm so angry and I don't know what to do with it." "Feel it," she said. "Let yourself feel it. And then, when you're ready, let it go. Not for them. For you. Because carrying that anger will poison you. And you deserve better than that." He squeezed her hand and let himself cry again. This woman who loved him holding space for his grief. Later, driving home, he took a detour past Nicole's old apartment. Saw the dark windows. Realized she'd already moved out. Already running from what she'd done. Part of him wanted to chase her down. To scream at her. To demand answers to questions he was too afraid to ask. But a bigger part of him just wanted to forget she ever existed. So he drove home, poured himself a drink, and started the long process of trying to excavate her from his life. It would take longer than he thought. It always did. Soul lovers, if you're still with me after all this heartbreak, drop a comment and let me know. Can they come back from this? Does anyone deserve a happy ending after causing this much pain? What would you do? We're just getting started on part 3. The healing, the reckoning, and the choices are still coming. Don't go anywhere. 3 weeks after the world ended, Nicole and Tae-Kyung finally spoke. Not by design, by accident, by cruel cosmic coincidence. Nicole was at a cafe in Hongdae, laptop open, pretending to work on an event proposal she'd rewritten 17 times because she couldn't focus. The cafe was loud, students chattering, espresso machines hissing, K-pop playing overhead. Noise that filled the silence that had taken up residence in her head. She looked up at the wrong moment and he was there, standing in line. 3 people between him and the counter. He hadn't seen her yet. His hair was longer, more disheveled than before. He wore a simple black shirt, jeans. No expensive suits. No armor. He looked as tired as she felt. Nicole's first instinct was to run. Grab her laptop and disappear before he notices her. But her body wouldn't cooperate. She just sat there, frozen, watching him order and pay and turn with his coffee. Their eyes met. The impact was physical. She felt it in her chest, her stomach, her bones. Saw the same reaction ripple through him. For a moment, neither moved. The cafe noise faded to white static. There was only the space between them and 7 years of history and 3 weeks of devastation. Then Tae-Kyung walked over. "Can I sit?" His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't used it much lately. Nicole nodded because words required a throat that wasn't closing. He sat across from her, set his coffee down with careful precision. They stared at each other like strangers who used to be everything. "You look terrible," he said finally. "So do you." A ghost of a smile. There and gone. "How are you?" Nicole laughed, the sound bitter and broken. "How am I? That's what we're doing? Small talk. I don't know what else to do. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him anchored. I haven't known what to do since. Since we destroyed 3 lives for a kiss? He flinched. Yeah, since then. Silence stretched between them, uncomfortable and heavy. Yuna left, Tae-Kyung said quietly. Walked out the night of the confrontation. She'd already figured it out. Had proof. Photos from college. The whole timeline. She just waited until I got home to destroy me with it. I'm sorry. Are you? His eyes met hers, sharp and searching. Because she's right to leave. She deserves better than someone who was half present the entire relationship. Nicole looked down at her laptop, at the proposal she'd been failing to write. Tae-Won won't answer my calls. I've tried texting, emailing. I even went to his office, but security wouldn't let me up. Her voice cracked. I just want to apologize. To explain. What's there to explain? Tae-Kyung cut in, not cruel but honest. We knew what we were doing. Every kiss, every touch, every moment. We knew and we did it anyway. He was good to me. Nicole's eyes burned. He loved me, and I wore your bracelet while wearing his ring. What kind of person does that? The kind who never got over their first love. He said it simply like a diagnosis. The kind who tried to build something new on a foundation that was already cracked. That's not an excuse. No, he agreed. It's not. More silence. Nicole took a sip of her cold coffee just to have something to do with her hands. My grandmother called me, Tae-Kyung said, staring into his cup. She's devastated. Not just for Tae-Won, but for the family. For what this means. She said. He stopped, swallowed hard. She said she doesn't know if she can look at me the same way. Nicole closed her eyes. My mother knows. I had to tell her the wedding's off. She's trying to be supportive, but I can hear the disappointment. She liked Tae-Won. Everyone liked Tae-Won. Because he was perfect and You weren't ready for perfect, Tae-Kyung finished. You were still trying to heal from us. Don't. Nicole opened her eyes and looked at him directly. Don't make this romantic. Don't frame this like some star-crossed lovers bullshit. We were selfish. We wanted what we wanted and we didn't care who got hurt. I cared. His voice rose slightly. I hated every second of hurting him. But I couldn't. He stopped, jaw clenched. I couldn't stay away from you. I tried. For weeks I tried. And then you were there and 7 years just vanished and I couldn't remember why I was supposed to resist. Because he's your cousin. Nicole's voice broke completely. Because he trusted you. Because I trusted myself with him and then betrayed that trust. Because we're adults who should know better than to blow up lives over feelings. So what? Tae-Kyung leaned forward. Intense. We just ignore the feelings? Bury them again? Pretend we don't. I don't know. The admission came out as a sob. I don't know what we do. All I know is that I hurt the best man I've ever known and I did it for you. And now you're sitting across from me and I don't even know if this, she gestured between them, if this is real or if it's just unfinished business. If it's love or if it's guilt or if it's just that we're both so fucked up that we think destroying everything is romantic. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Tae-Kyung leaned back, something flickering in his eyes. Hurt maybe, or recognition. You think I'm not asking myself the same questions? Every day, every hour. Whether what we have is real or if it's just the fantasy of what we lost. And, Nicole demanded, what's your answer? I don't have one. He met her gaze steadily. But I know I haven't been able to breathe properly for 3 weeks. I know I wake up reaching for my phone to text you and then remember I have no right. I know that seeing you just now felt like drowning and coming up for air at the same time. Nicole's breath hitched. That's not enough. Feeling isn't enough. We felt all of this and still hurt everyone around us. Then what is enough? He asked it genuinely, like he really didn't know. What do we need? Permission? Forgiveness? A time machine? I don't know, she whispered. Maybe we need to figure out if we even work. Outside the fantasy. Outside the angst and the history and the forbidden nature of it all. Do we actually fit? Or were we just two people who loved each other once and are now holding on to something that should stay buried? Tae-Kyung was quiet for a long moment. Then, how do we figure that out? I don't know, Nicole admitted. But I think we need to stop pretending we're the same people we were 7 years ago. We've both changed. We've both been through things. Maybe we don't even like who the other person became. Is that what you want? His voice was careful, guarded. To get to know each other again? Start over. I think... Nicole stopped, trying to find the right words. I think we destroyed 3 lives for this. The least we can do is figure out if there's actually something here worth saving. Not the memory of us. Not the idea of us. The actual, real, complicated us. And if there's not? The question sat between them like a bomb. Then we ruined everything for nothing, Nicole said quietly. And we have to live with that. Tae-Kyung nodded slowly, processing. So what? We date? Like normal people. I don't know if we can ever be normal people. Nicole's smile was sad. But maybe we can try to be honest ones. No more secrets. No more pretending. We face what we did and who we are and see if there's anything real underneath all the wreckage. That sounds terrifying. It is. She paused. Are you in? He looked at her for a long moment. Really looked. At the woman she'd become, not the girl she'd been. At the fear and hope and guilt all mixed together in her expression. Yeah, he said finally. I'm in. They sat there in the noisy cafe. 2 people who'd destroyed everything for each other and tried to figure out how to build something from the ruins. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. But maybe it could be real. 2 days later, Tae-Kyung stood outside Tae-Won's apartment building and questioned every decision that had led him here. He'd been standing there for 20 minutes, walked up to the door 3 times and retreated. His hands were sweating. His chest felt tight. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to spare himself the confrontation he absolutely deserved. But Nicole's words echoed in his head. Honest. No more pretending. If they were going to try this, really try, he had to face what he'd done. Had to give Tae-Won the closure of looking him in the eye and hearing the truth. He pressed the buzzer. Nothing. Maybe Tae-Won wasn't home. Maybe this was a sign to, what do you want? Tae-Won's voice through the intercom. Flat. Dead. To talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You've got a lot of nerve. I know. Tae-Kyung leaned his forehead against the cool metal of the intercom. I know I have no right to ask anything from you. But please. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave and I'll never bother you again. Silence stretched so long Tae-Kyung thought he'd hung up. Then the door buzzed open. Tae-Won's apartment looked different. Cleaner maybe. Or emptier. Like he'd removed anything that reminded him of Nicole. The walls had holes where pictures used to hang. The bookshelf had gaps. Tae-Won stood in the middle of the living room, right where the confrontation had happened 3 weeks ago. Arms crossed, face carved from stone. You've got 5 minutes, he said. Talk. Tae-Kyung had rehearsed this, had planned what to say. But now, standing in front of his cousin, all the words evaporated. I'm sorry, he started, and immediately knew how pathetic it sounded. I know that's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix anything or take back what I did. But I need you to hear it anyway. I'm sorry, Tae-Won. I'm so fucking sorry. For what specifically? Tae-Won's voice was ice. Sorry for pursuing my fiancé? Sorry for lying to my face? Sorry for destroying our family? Sorry you got caught? What exactly are you sorry for? All of it. Tae-Kyung forced himself to meet his cousin's eyes. Every choice I made that hurt you. Every time I looked at her when I shouldn't have. Every time I justified it to myself. Every moment I chose what I wanted over your happiness. Why? The question came out strangled. Why couldn't you just let her go? You had 7 years. 7 years to move on. Why did she have to be mine before you wanted her back? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Tae-Won's control started cracking. Explain it to me. Make me understand how you justify betraying your own family. I can't. Tae-Kyung's voice broke. There's no justification. No excuse that makes it okay. I saw her again and every wall I'd built came down. Every defense I had against her just evaporated. And I know that's not your problem. I know I should have been stronger. But I wasn't. And you paid the price for my weakness. She was going to be my wife. Tears ran down Tae-Won's face now. I was going to spend my life with her. I trusted her. I trusted you. How could you do this to me? Because I'm selfish, Tae-Kyung said, the admission raw. Because when it came down to choosing between you and her, I chose her. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. I'll have to live knowing I destroyed the one person who was like a brother to me for a chance at something that might not even work. Might not even work, Tae-Won repeated hollowly. You destroyed me for something that might not even work. I know. Do you love her? The question was quiet, deadly. After everything, after all this damage, do you actually love her? Tae-Kyung didn't hesitate. Yes. More than you love me? More than you love our family? More than you value your own integrity? I don't know if it's more, Tae-Kyung said honestly. But it's different. I don't want to hear it. Tae-Won held up a hand. I don't want your poetic justifications about true love. I just want to know one thing. Was she worth it? Destroying everything we had. Was she worth it? Tae-Kyung looked at his cousin, his brother in every way that mattered, and saw the devastation he'd caused. Saw the love that had turned to hate. Saw the trust that would never be rebuilt. Ask me in a year, he said quietly. Right now all I know is that I lost you. And that's a wound that's never going to heal. Good. Tae-Won's voice was bitter. I hope it hurts. I hope every time you look at her you remember what you destroyed to have her. I hope you never forget. I won't, Tae-Kyung promised. I'll carry this forever. Tae-Won turned away, shoulders shaking. Get out. Your 5 minutes are up. Tae-Won. Get out. He still wouldn't look at him. And don't come back. We're not family anymore. We're nothing. The words hit like bullets. Tae-Kyung left without another word. Because what else was there to say? He'd come for forgiveness and found only the consequences of his choices staring back at him. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and let himself break. Because he'd known this would happen. Had known Tae-Won would never forgive him. But knowing and feeling were different things. And feeling the finality of losing his brother was agony. Inside the apartment, Tae-Won sank to the floor and cried for the family he'd lost, the woman he'd loved, and the future that would never be. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. This was one of them. 6 months later, Nicole sat across from Dr. Sarah Chun and tried to explain what drowning on dry land felt like. I thought I was fine, Nicole said, her hands wrapped around the lukewarm coffee she'd brought to the session. After the breakup with Tae-Won, after everything fell apart, I thought if I just worked hard enough, stayed busy enough, I could outrun it. How's that working out? Dr. Chun asked, her expression neutral but kind. I had a panic attack during a client meeting last week. Nicole laughed without humor. Right in the middle of discussing napkin colors. Just suddenly couldn't breathe. Had to excuse myself and spend 20 minutes in the bathroom trying to remember how lungs work. Dr. Chun made a note. And what do you think triggered it? The bride kept saying she wanted everything perfect. That this day had to be perfect because it was the most important day of her life. Nicole's voice went quiet. And I just kept thinking about my own wedding that never happened. About Tae-Won. About how I destroyed something perfect because I couldn't let go of the past. Do you think what you had with Tae-Won was perfect? Nicole considered this. 6 months ago, the answer would have been yes. Now, I think it looked perfect from the outside. And I think he was a perfect partner. But I was never fully there. Part of me was always 7 years in the past, holding on to something I'd lost. And now I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not running from ghosts or hiding in someone else's version of my life. Nicole set down her coffee. I've been in therapy for 4 months. I'm on anti-anxiety medication. I moved to a real apartment instead of that temporary studio. I even stopped wearing the bracelet. That last part still felt like ripping off a piece of her skin every morning. The infinity bracelet sat in a box on her dresser now. She touched it sometimes, late at night when the loneliness got too heavy. But she didn't wear it. Couldn't wear it while trying to move forward. How does that feel? Not wearing it. Like I'm finally living in the present instead of the past. Nicole paused. And also like I'm betraying something sacred. Both things can be true, right? Both things can absolutely be true, Dr. Chun confirmed. Grief isn't linear. Neither is growth. You can be proud of your progress and still mourn what you've lost. After the session, Nicole walked through Hanamdong, watching Seoul move around her. 6 months ago, she'd felt like a ghost haunting her own life. Now she felt more solid. Still healing, still figuring things out, but real. Her phone buzzed. Tae-Kyung, coffee tomorrow? There's something I want to talk about. They'd been doing this for months now. Coffee dates that felt like friendly interrogations. Getting to know each other again. Learning who they'd become in the years apart. It was strange. Awkward sometimes. Not the fairy tale reunion she'd maybe fantasized about. But it was honest. Sure. 2 p.m.? Same place? Perfect. See you then. She pocketed her phone and kept walking, feeling something that might have been hope fluttering cautiously in her chest. Tae-Kyung's therapist had assigned him homework. Write a letter to the person he'd hurt most. He'd spent 3 weeks staring at blank paper before finally forcing the words out. The letter sat in his drawer now, unsent. Dr. Park said he didn't have to send it. The exercise was about accountability, not absolution. Dear Tae-Won, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I understand what I took from you. The letter was 7 pages long. 7 pages of apology and acknowledgement and grief for what he'd destroyed. He'd cried writing it. Had to start over 3 times because tears made the ink run. But he'd finished it. And something about that, about facing what he'd done head-on instead of hiding from it, had shifted something in his chest. Hadn't healed it, but made it bearable. He'd stepped back from the family business. Grandmother's request, though she'd phrased it gently. Until things settle, she'd said, which meant maybe never, which meant he'd permanently damaged his relationship with the woman who'd raised him. That hurt more than almost anything. But he understood. Actions had consequences. He'd chosen Nicole. This was the price. His company was thriving despite, or maybe because of, his increased focus. He threw himself into work when the guilt got too heavy. Built things. Solved problems. Did something productive instead of drowning in what he couldn't change. And slowly, painfully, he was building something with Nicole. Not a relationship yet. Not quite. More like a friendship built on wreckage and honesty. They talked about everything now. Their therapy sessions. Their regrets. Their fears. The ways they'd changed in 7 years. I'm not the girl you remember, Nicole had told him over coffee 2 months ago. That version of me died when my father did. I'm someone else now. Good, he'd replied. Because I'm not that boy either. We can meet as strangers. See if we actually like each other. It was working. Slowly. Imperfectly. But working. Tomorrow he'd tell her about Yuna. About running into her last week at a business conference. About the polite conversation they'd had where she'd looked genuinely happy. Had mentioned someone new. Someone who chose her first, always without question. I hope it works out for you, Yuna had said before leaving. Truly. But I also hope you understand what you sacrificed for it. He did understand. Every single day. Tae-Won's dating profile had been active for 2 months before he actually met anyone. Not because there weren't matches. There were dozens. Beautiful women. Interesting women. Women who laughed at his jokes and seemed genuinely interested. But every first date felt like a betrayal. Like he was supposed to still be mourning. Like moving forward meant Nicole won. She doesn't win if you're happy, his friend Jun-ho said over drinks. She wins if you stay miserable. The best revenge is living well. So Tae-Won tried. Coffee dates. Dinner dates. One movie that he barely watched because he spent the whole time wondering if this was what moving on felt like, hollow and performative and fake. Then he met Ji-eun. She was a pediatric surgeon with terrible taste in movies and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. She didn't know about Nicole. Didn't know about the betrayal. She just knew him as Tae-Won, the guy who made her laugh and didn't flinch when she talked about her day saving children's lives. On their fourth date, walking through Olympic Park, she took his hand. "Is this okay?" she asked. He looked down at their joined hands and waited for the guilt, for the voice in his head that said he was replacing Nicole, that this was wrong. It didn't come. "Yeah," he said, and meant it. "This is okay." Later, dropping her off at her apartment, she kissed him. Just a brief press of lips. Nothing earth-shaking. Nothing that rewrote his understanding of the universe. But it was nice. It was real. It was a beginning that wasn't weighed down by 7 years of history and betrayal. "I like you," Ji-eun said, smiling against his mouth. "Is that weird to say? I feel like people play games, but I'm too old for games. I like you. I want to keep seeing you." "I like you too," Tae-Won said, and realized he wasn't lying. He was healing. Slowly. Imperfectly. But healing. That night, he took the last photo of Nicole out of his desk drawer. Looked at it one final time, her smile, her eyes, the way she'd looked at him like he was precious, and then deleted it from his phone. Some loves were meant to teach you, not last forever. This was one of them, and he was finally, okay with that. 9 months after everything fell apart, Nicole and Tae-Kyung had their first real date. Not coffee. Not getting to know each other in neutral cafes where they could escape if things got awkward. An actual date. Dinner reservations. Dress clothes. The works. Nicole changed outfits 4 times before settling on a deep blue dress that made her feel like herself. Not the girl from college. Not Tae-Won's ex-fiancé. Just Nicole. Whoever she was now. Tae-Kyung picked her up at 7. Knocked on her door like a nervous teenager. When she opened it, his expression did something complicated. "You look..." He stopped. Started again. "You look beautiful. But that's not news. You always do." She smiled. "You clean up nice yourself." They were awkward in the car. Too polite. Like they were auditioning for the roles of functional couple. The restaurant was intimate. Dim lighting. Small tables. The kind of place where you had to lean close to hear each other. Where privacy felt sacred. They ordered. Made small talk about work. About Seoul's autumn weather. Safe topics that skirted around everything real. Finally, halfway through appetizers, Tae-Kyung set down his fork. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We're being ridiculous." Nicole looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're acting like strangers on a blind date when we've known each other for 7 years. When we've destroyed our lives for each other. When we've spent 9 months having the most honest conversations of my life over coffee. Why are we pretending now?" She sat back, considering. "Because this is different." Coffee was safe. "This," she gestured around the restaurant. "This is admitting we're trying. And that's terrifying." "Why?" "Because what if we're wrong?" The words burst out of her. "What if we've built this up in our heads into something it's not? What if the real us, the us that exists in present day, without the drama and the forbidden nature and the angst, is boring? What if we don't actually work?" Tae-Kyung was quiet for a moment. Then we'll know. And at least we'll have tried." "Is that enough? Just trying? After what it cost?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know I'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering." Nicole looked at him across the table, really looked. At the man he'd become. The tattoos that had meaning now, he'd explained them over coffee 3 months ago. The lines around his eyes from stress and laughter. The way he carried himself with confidence but also humility he hadn't had at 23. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "I'm scared we're going to hurt each other again. That this is just us being nostalgic for something that doesn't exist anymore. I'm scared too." He reached across the table, palm up, an offering. "But I'm also sure that what I feel for you isn't nostalgia. It's not memory. When I look at you now, I see you. Nicole at 30. Not the college student I fell in love with. You. And I'm falling for this version too. Maybe even more." Her breath caught. She stared at his offered hand. This was the moment. The choice. To reach across this table and try. Or to pull back and walk away before they hurt each other more. She thought about Tae-Won. About the life she'd destroyed. About the consequences still rippling outward. She thought about therapy. About the work she'd done. About learning to live with herself. She thought about tomorrow. And the day after. And all the days stretching ahead without knowing what came next. Then she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid and real. Okay, she breathed. Let's try. The rest of dinner was different. Lighter. They laughed about stupid things. Told stories from the months apart. Remembered who they'd been while acknowledging who they'd become. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward pauses. Still moments where the weight of everything hung between them. But it was real. After dinner, they walked along the Han River, the same river where he'd given her the bracelet 7 years ago. But this time there were no grand promises. No declarations of forever. Just two people walking side by side, trying to figure out if they could build something sustainable from ruins. I don't wear the bracelet anymore, Nicole said suddenly. Tae-Kyung looked at her wrist, bare except for a simple watch. Why not? Because I needed to stop living in the past. Even a past I loved. She met his eyes. Forever is a nice idea, but I'm not interested in forever anymore. I'm interested in today, and maybe tomorrow, and seeing if we can string enough days together that they start to mean something. That's very practical, he observed. I learned the hard way that romance isn't enough. That passion burns out if you don't have foundation. She stopped walking, turned to face him. So if we're doing this, really doing this, I need to know we're building something sustainable. Not just chasing a feeling. What do you need from me? He asked seriously. Honesty. Patience. Understanding that some days I'm gonna wake up and regret everything. That sometimes I'll look at you and see Tae-Won's face when we destroyed him. That this isn't going to be easy or pretty or romantic most of the time. I can do that. He stepped closer. What else? I need you to not make me your whole world. I need you to have your own life, your own friends, your own therapy. I need us to be two whole people choosing each other. Not two broken people clinging together because we're afraid of being alone. Done. He cupped her face gently. Anything else? Yeah. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I need you to kiss me. Because we've been dancing around this for 9 months and I need to know if the chemistry is still there or if it died with everything else we destroyed. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. When their lips met, it was nothing like the desperate kiss in her office. This was softer, questioning. A conversation without words. Do we still fit? Yes. Is this real? Maybe. Can we do this without destroying everything again? We can try. They broke apart, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. Okay, Tae-Kyung said. That answers that question. Nicole laughed, the sound surprised out of her. Yeah, it really does. They walked back to her apartment, hands linked, navigating the uncertainty together. At her door, he kissed her again. Longer this time, deeper, with a promise of things to come, then pulled back. I'm not coming up tonight, he said. We're taking this slow, doing it right. Slow, right? Good plan. Her brain wasn't working properly. But I want to see you again. Tomorrow. And the day after. And as many days as you'll let me. Tomorrow's good, Nicole managed. Tomorrow works. He kissed her one more time, brief, sweet, then left. Nicole leaned against her closed door and smiled. For the first time in 9 months, the weight on her chest felt just a little bit lighter. Maybe they'd make it. Maybe they wouldn't. But at least now they were trying. And that had to count for something. 1 year after the confrontation, Nicole woke up to sunlight filtering through gauze curtains and Tae-Kyung's arm heavy across her waist. They didn't live together. Not yet. Maybe not ever. They'd learned the hard way that rushing led to disasters. But he stayed over sometimes, at her place or his, and it felt less like playing house and more like building something sustainable. She turned in his arms. He was still asleep, face soft in a way it never was when awake. The tattoos on his neck disappeared under the collar of his t-shirt. She traced them with her finger, light enough not to wake him. This man, this complicated, flawed, beautiful man who destroyed his family for her, who was trying every day to be worthy of that sacrifice. It wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes. Real fights about stupid things like dishes and whose turn it was to plan date night. But also about the big things. About the guilt that still occasionally crushed her. About family events he went to alone because she wasn't welcome. About Tae-Won's name, which was a landmine they navigated carefully. But they were trying. And trying counted. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Her mother, checking in like she did every Sunday. "How are you, baby?" "Good. Really good. Still with him? Still with him. Are you happy?" Nicole looked at Tae-Kyung, still sleeping, and thought about the question. Happy felt too simple for what this was. This relationship built on wreckage and accountability and choosing each other every single day despite everything. "I'm working on it," she typed back. "But yeah, I think so. That's all any of us can do," her mother replied. Love you too." Tae-Kyung stirred, his eyes opening slowly. When he saw her watching him, he smiled. "Morning," he rumbled, voice thick with sleep. "Morning." He pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "What time is it?" "Early. We have time." "Good." He settled back into the pillows, taking her with him. "I like mornings with you. They're quiet, peaceful, until you have to deal with me before coffee. Even then." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I ran into Tae-Won last week." Nicole's entire body went rigid. "What?" "At grandmother's. She'd invited me for tea. Didn't mention he'd be there." Tae-Kyung's arm tightened around her. "We didn't talk, just acknowledged each other." Nodded. Then he left. "How was it?" "Painful, but less than before. Like the wound is old enough that the edges aren't so sharp anymore." "Does he know about us? That we're actually together?" "I think everyone knows," Tae-Kyung said quietly. "Grandmother certainly does. She doesn't approve, but she stopped actively hoping we'll end things." "That's something." Nicole closed her eyes. The cost of their relationship was a constant weight. Family dinners Tae-Kyung attended alone. Holidays divided. Grandmother's disappointment that never quite faded. Tae-Won's presence in the family like a ghost at their feast. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Sometimes, in quiet moments, do you regret choosing me?" He didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. The honesty between them demanded space for truth, even painful truth. "Sometimes," he admitted, "when I see grandmother's face, when I think about Tae-Won and what we took from him, when family gatherings happen and I'm not invited anymore." He paused. "But then I look at you and I can't imagine having made a different choice. So I guess I regret the cost, not the decision. Does that make sense?" "Yeah." Nicole pressed closer to him. "It makes perfect sense. Because I feel the same way." They lay there in the quiet morning light, two people living with consequences, making peace with choices that had irrevocably altered multiple lives. "He's dating someone," Tae-Kyung said eventually. "Tae-Won. Grandmother mentioned it. A doctor. Ji-eun, I think. She said he seems happy." Nicole felt something shift in her chest. Relief? Guilt? Both? "That's good. He deserves happiness." "He does." Tae-Kyung's voice was heavy. More than most people. They didn't talk about it more. There was nothing else to say. They'd hurt him, he was healing. Life was moving forward whether they were ready or not. Later, over breakfast in her tiny kitchen, Tae-Kyung said, "I have something for you." He pulled out a small velvet box and Nicole's heart stopped. "It's not what you think," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "Open it." Inside was a delicate silver necklace. No infinity symbol. Just a simple, elegant chain with a small compass pendant. "For moving forward," he explained. "Not looking back. Not trying to recreate the past. Just finding our way together. If you want it." Nicole's eyes burned with tears. She'd cried more this year than in her entire life combined. But these were different. Cleaner somehow. Help me put it on? He fastened it around her neck, his fingers gentle at her nape. She touched the compass, feeling its weight. Lighter than the infinity bracelet, less loaded with history and broken promises. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for trying, he replied. For not giving up on this even when it got hard. For choosing to stay. Every day, Nicole said. I choose you every day. That's what love is now for me. Not a feeling. A choice. Then I choose you too. Every day. Even the hard ones. They kissed over cooling coffee and burnt toast. Two imperfect people building something real from the wreckage of their past. It wasn't the fairy tale, but it was theirs. 3 years later, the hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and anxiety. Nicole sat with her hands pressed against her rounded belly, feeling the baby kick against her palms. 8 months pregnant and everything hurt, but in a good way, purposeful way. Tae-Kyung paced beside her, nervous energy radiating off him in waves. Sit down, she said. You're making me anxious. Sorry. He sat, took her hand, immediately stood again. What if something's wrong? What if? Nothing's wrong. It's just a routine ultrasound. We've done 5 of these already. I know, but... He stopped pacing when he saw her expression. Saturday. Took her hand properly this time. Sorry. First time dad nerves. I know. She squeezed his fingers. But our daughter is fine. Strong heartbeat. Growing perfectly. The doctor said. Ms. Reynolds. A nurse appeared in the doorway. We're ready for you. They followed her back. Tae-Kyung's hand tight in Nicole's. The ultrasound tech was cheerful, spreading cold gel on Nicole's belly, pointing out fingers and toes and a strong, steady heartbeat on the monitor. Everything looks perfect, she assured them. You're right on track for a healthy delivery next month. After the appointment, they walked slowly through the hospital corridors. Nicole was waddling now, her center of gravity completely off, but Tae-Kyung kept pace beside her, protective and attentive. As they passed the main lobby, Nicole saw him. Tae-Won. He was in business casual attire, hospital visitor badge clipped to his pocket, walking with a beautiful woman in professional clothing, Ji-eun. Nicole assumed from grandmother's descriptions. They were laughing about something, his hand on the small of her back, completely at ease. Then he looked up and saw them. Time didn't stop. There was no dramatic slow-motion moment. Just 3 people who used to be in each other's lives crossing paths in a hospital corridor. Tae-Won's eyes went to Nicole's belly, to the obvious pregnancy. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe calculation, quick mental math, then settled into careful neutrality. They approached each other because avoiding would be more awkward. Tae-Won, Tae-Kyung said quietly. Cousin. Formal. Distant. But not hostile. This is Ji-eun, Tae-Won said, his hand still on her back. My fiancé. The word landed softly but deliberately. I moved on. I'm happy. Congratulations, Nicole managed, her hand instinctively going to her belly. That's wonderful. Ji-eun smiled warmly, oblivious to the full weight of history. Thank you. We're excited. Spring wedding. Her eyes went to Nicole's belly. And congratulations to you. How far along? 8 months. Nicole's hand rested protectively on her bump. Girl, due next month. How beautiful, Ji-eun said genuinely. I'm a social worker here at the hospital, so if you need any resources or recommendations, I'm happy to help. The offer was kind, uncomplicated, free of the weight that sat on the 3 people who knew what they'd all lost and found. Thank you, Nicole said. I appreciate that. An awkward pause. Then Tae-Won checked his watch. We should go, he said to Ji-eun. The workshop starts in 10 minutes. Of course, Ji-eun said. She smiled at Nicole and Tae-Kyung. It was lovely meeting you both. Tae-Won looked at them for a long moment. At Nicole's pregnant belly. At Tae-Kyung's protective stance beside her. His expression was unreadable. I hope everything goes well, he said finally. With the baby. Thank you, Nicole whispered. He nodded once. Then to Tae-Kyung, the briefest acknowledgement. Take care of them. I will, Tae-Kyung replied. Tae-Won and Ji-eun walked away, his arm around her shoulders, two people building a future unburdened by betrayal and broken promises. Nicole watched them disappear around the corner and felt something finally settle in her chest. Not forgiveness, she'd never expect that, but something like peace. The knowledge that he was okay, that he'd found his own happiness. He looks good, she said quietly. He does. Tae-Kyung pulled her close, his hand moving to rest on her belly where their daughter kicked. We all do. Different kinds of happy, but happy. In the car, driving home, Nicole touched the compass necklace she still wore every day. Do you think we'll ever stop carrying the weight? She asked. No, Tae-Kyung said honestly. What we did will always be part of our story. The cost will always be there. He glanced at her, one hand moving to cover hers on her belly. But what we're building on top of that cost, our family, our life, our daughter, that's ours. And it's real. And maybe that's enough. Nicole covered his hand with hers, their daughter moving beneath their joined palms. Yeah, maybe it is. For weeks later, at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday, Nicole gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Somin. New beginning in Korean. A hope for something different, something untainted by the past. Tae-Kyung held her for the first time with tears streaming down his face. This tiny perfect thing they created. And Nicole saw him silently promising their daughter to be worthy, to be better, to give her a life built on choice and honesty, not secrets and betrayal. The first visitors, hours later, were Nicole's mother and Tae-Kyung's grandmother. Nicole's mother wept and held her granddaughter with fierce love. She's perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect. Grandmother came in slowly, leaning on her cane, her face carefully neutral. But when she looked at Somin sleeping peacefully in the hospital bassinet, something softened. May I? She asked quietly. Nicole nodded, watching as grandmother carefully lifted Somin into her arms. The old woman's face crumpled, tears sliding down her weathered cheeks. She's beautiful, grandmother whispered. Then she looked at Nicole and Tae-Kyung, her expression complex. You've hurt people. You've made terrible choices that I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand or accept. Nicole's heart sank, but grandmother wasn't finished. But this child, she touched Somin's tiny hand with a trembling finger. This child is innocent. This is new life, new possibility, and I choose to be in her life. Not because I've forgiven what you did. I haven't. Maybe I never will. Her voice was firm but not cruel. But I'm choosing forward motion over bitterness. For her sake. And maybe, eventually, for my own. It wasn't absolution. It wasn't even forgiveness. But it was something. A crack in the ice. A beginning. Thank you, Tae-Kyung said, his voice thick with emotion. Grandmother, thank you. She handed Somin back to Nicole. Don't waste this. Don't waste what you destroyed so much to have. Be better for her than you were for yourselves. We will, Nicole promised. Every day, we'll try to be better. Grandmother nodded once, then left, leaning heavily on her cane, carrying the weight of a family fractured but not completely broken. Later, when everyone had gone home and it was just the three of them, Nicole, Tae-Kyung, and Somin sleeping between them in the hospital bed, they lay in the quiet and breathed. We did it, Nicole whispered, watching their daughter's tiny chest rise and fall. We're still doing it, Tae-Kyung corrected gently. Every day. This doesn't erase what we did. But it's real. It's ours. It's a beginning. Nicole looked at their daughter, this tiny person who would grow up never knowing the destruction that preceded her creation, who would have two parents who chose each other daily, who worked at their relationship, who built something sustainable from ruins. You are my choice, she said softly. Their mantra, their promise, the words that had become their foundation. You are mine as well, Tae-Kyung replied, his hand finding hers across their sleeping daughter. And her. And this messy, complicated, hard-won life we're building. All of it. Somin made a small sound in her sleep, a reminder that the past was past and the future was unwritten. They'd destroyed lives to get here. They'd hurt people they'd loved. They'd paid prices that could never fully be repaid. But they'd also fought for each other, had chosen honesty over comfort, had built something real and imperfect and complicated, and some loves required destruction, some required rebuilding. There's required both. And somehow, improbably, painfully, beautifully, it was enough. Soul lovers, this is where our story ends. Not with a perfect fairy tale, but with something real, messy, earned. Some loves require destruction to exist. Some require choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard. Nicole and Tae-Kyung's love required both. The cost was high. The consequences are permanent. But they built something sustainable from the ruins. Thank you for staying through all 3 parts. Through the heartbreak, the betrayal, and finally, the peace. Drop a comment. Tell me your final thoughts. Did they deserve their ending? What would you have done? Who won and who lost? And if this story moved you, if it made you cry, made you angry, made you think, hit that subscribe button. Because I'm going to keep telling stories that don't shy away from the messy truth of love and life. Until next time, soul lovers, choose your people wisely. And when you do, choose them every single day.